are you all today? It's so lovely to be here with you once again. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're watching me for the very first time, the name is Sandra Aneno Amanya, your favorite YouTuber all the way from Uganda, and I'm so excited to get into today's video. There's something about mountains, isn't there? In the Bible, mountains usually symbolized places of divine encounters. For example, when Moses received the 10 Commandments, where did he go? He went up the mountain. When Jesus was transfigured, where was he transfigured from? On the mountain. But here is what I find beautiful, is that in all the stories that I read in the Bible, never at one point was any woman, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, Rachel, never were they asked by God to go up the mountain. He always came down the mountain to where she was. We're going to be talking about what that means for us as wives in our home, as mothers in our home. Are you a single woman and you're aspiring to get married? This episode is for you. You're there and you're fasting and praying for marriage. Come closer. I want to be the one to tell you the truth about the role that actually awaits you, especially if you're after a godly marriage. Sembera. Because today we are going to answer, are we just passive participants in our marriage? Are we just helpers? Are we just supposed to sit and wait for our husbands to lead? Or do we as women and mothers in our home carry a powerful ministry? And what does that look like? Let's find out today. So the mountain and the valley. We've spoken about how Jesus asked the men, God asked the men to go up the mountain, and how God came down into the valley to find the women where they were. So as you can see, there is a pattern here, right? God calls the men up the mountain. Moses was summoned up the mountain to receive the instructions. Jesus took Peter, James, and John up the mountain to reveal his glory. But when the meeting was done, after Jesus had met them, what did they do? They say whatever goes up must do what? Must come down. So when the men went up the mountain and met with God, they later came down. Why? Because the presence of God that they had received up the mountain was never meant to stay there. It was meant to flow from the mountain and up into the valley where we, the women, were. And that is where God found us, right? So let's look at Genesis. God creates Adam, God creates Eve. But Eve was not created as an afterthought. Dear woman of God, you were not created as an afterthought. Yeah? God created you to be a helper in the most powerful and God-ordained sense. That word helper, it's not meant to demean you. It's not meant to demean me. In fact, helper is the same word that is used to describe God as Israel's helper. So are we to say that because we call God our helper that he is our assistant? Or that he is lowly? Or that he is our servant? No. Your description as a helper, it means that you are a bringer. It means that you are a warrior. It means that you are a sustainer. You're not powerless. So when our husbands or the men that God has placed in our lives, when they go up the mountain to receive that vision for ministry, for your marriage, for your children, for your businesses, yeah, they go up the mountain, they receive that wisdom, that vision, that leadership. But what happens next? They bring it down to us. Us, their beloved helpers, and then we become the force that nurtures that vision. We become the force that builds and establishes those visions. We breathe life into them. Does that sound useless? Absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely not. So that covers the mountain and the valley. Let's go into our second segment, which talks about our ministry as wives and mothers. So this ministry, Sandra, you're talking about, that I have a ministry in my home as a wife, as a mother, as an aspiring single person who wants to get married one day. Let's break it down. What does it look like practically? Yes, you as a wife, as a mother, you are the spiritual atmosphere of your home. That is the ministry that you carry, number one. That you set the spiritual atmosphere for your home. Proverbs 14:1 reads that the wise woman builds her home, but with her own hands, these same hands, a foolish one tears down. What does this mean? It means that you, as the wife, as the mother in your home, the way that you pray, the way that you speak, the way that you carry your own faith, it shapes the environment and the tone for everything in your home. Yes, your husband, the priest in your home, may bring down that vision. But you, my dear, you're the one who cultivates that soil to make sure that the soil is fertile enough so that this seed that your husband has planted can have space to grow and thrive. In a way, teamwork. So number one, you set the spiritual atmosphere in your home, no one else. Number two, wives, mothers, aspiring single women, you are an intercessor for your husband. You're in that marriage to cover your husband in prayer. You're in that marriage to cover those business deals that he shares with you in prayer. When he tells you, honey, there's this deal on the table, but maybe I'm worried about this and this and this. My dear, immediately activate faith for him. Activate prayer for him. Because the enemy, he comes and he attacks our homes. P.S. It is, by the way, never through the husband. Okay, at least my experience. Like when they come to attack, it is through the heart of the woman. You as a woman, the devil will attack your home through your heart. I'm looking at you and I'm telling you right now. Why? Because if he can find a way to make you, as a mother, as a wife in that home, to be bitter. If he can find a way that you're so weary, there is no joy and peace, how do you think you're going to be in that home? Every little thing. Because the state of your heart, it is sick. So that is why as women in a home, you must pray without ceasing. Our ministry in our home, loves, it is not just about cooking. It is not just about managing the children, making sure there's dinner on the table. No, my dear. In the spiritual realm, we have been called to stand at the entrance of our family and fight for them and cover them in prayer. You, my dear, are an intercessor. Number 3, we are a source of strength, not just support. Yes, God has blessed us to support our husbands, but we are also a source of strength. Look at Judges chapter 4. In there we meet a strong woman called Deborah. Now Deborah did not just support her man Barak. She led with him side by side. She didn't just go back in the shadows and say, yeah, baby, you can do it. Oh, you got this. No. She was like, you got this and I am here with you. You got this and I am fighting with you. She sought God for her own. She sought God for her own family, for her own children, for her decisions. And she heard from God for herself. And because of it, she spoke boldly. Beloved, you don't have to be passive in your marriage. You don't have to be passive in your support of your husband. You can be an active supporter in the calling that God has placed over his life. So, beloved, you're called to walk in strength in your home. You're called to not just stand on the sidelines and watch as everything else unfolds. No. Your calling is much bigger than that. Are we together? So, third part. Let's talk about the reality of this walk. Sandra, you're talking marriage. You're talking motherhood, but you don't know how difficult it is. I almost don't have any time to do anything for myself. I almost have no time. There's even no time almost to pray because there's always this, there's always that. My dear, I know. I can empathize. Marriage and motherhood are not for the faint-hearted. If they're telling you it is a walk in the park, they are lying to you. It is work. It is work. So while we often dream of the wedding, the home, the children, the honeymoon, and it's all well and good, but you need to understand the prayer that it takes to sustain it. To sustain it, you must pray. So the realities of marriage and motherhood are taking you. They are taking you. You don't even have maybe time to do ministry at church. You find yourself having to be locked at home to look after the children. Maybe it's a newborn phase. And you have to, you have to put in work at home. My dear, don't worry. That's why I said God will come down the mountain and meet you. Yeah? In John chapter 4, Jesus, he just didn't call the Samaritan woman up the mountain. No. He met her. Where? You remember where he met the Samaritan woman? At the well. In the middle of her daily routine. And there he gave her living water and told her, you will thirst no more. The same is true for you and I. God is not asking you to carry the weight of your world alone. He's not asking you to carry the weight of your worry, anxiety, depression, your marriage alone. That job is stressing you. You don't have to carry anything alone. He's asking you to trust him. He's asking you to partner with him. He's asking you to allow his spirit to fill your home, your marriage, your journey of motherhood, your husband. And it's all available for you. But you have to wake up to realize that your role in your marriage is not passive. There is so much for us to do to ensure that our children thrive, our homes thrive, and our husbands have the best support system that they possibly can. So today, I want you to walk away with this one truth as we finish this episode. You're not just a wife. You're not just a fiancée. You're not just like a single girl who is there trusting on God to bring her Boaz. No, you're not just a mother. You're not just a just who is waiting for marriage. You are the heart of your home. You are the priestess of your home. You are the backbone, the intercessor, the life giver of your home. And God has equipped you with what you need to be able to do that. So while the mountain is powerful, home is where God's presence dwells. Home is where God's presence dwells. He comes down, refreshes us, strengthens us, and says, you are called for this. So if this video edified you, you enjoyed watching it, you feel challenged, provoked, please share with a friend or two. Subscribe, and come back. There's so much more I hope to share with you. So much love. Stay blessed.